So good morning, everyone. Another nice, beautiful day. So, we can start with again, short breathing meditation to quiet your mind, watching the breath mindfully. Then we can try to think and reflect. May I ask, coming here together, giving our precious time to listen and to reflect and contemplate on the meanings that we have listened to, becoming cause and conditions to be inspiration and encouragement for us to, and reminder to implement in our everyday life as much as possible. So that we can become more kind, more compassion, more patience, more understanding, more wise, and more happy, more peaceful. And may it become cause and conditions to much help and benefit to other sentient beings, directly, indirectly. Being help and benefit physically, emotionally, verbally. And may we never hurt and harm others, intentionally or unintentionally. And maybe it become cause and conditions to actualize all the realization within our mind stream, And those realizations which has already been actualized to increase and improve stronger, further and further. May we cause and conditions to achieve fully awakened state of the Buddhahood, so we can be most and greatest help and benefit to each and every day, every second, every moment. Okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soge Sonama, Chanju Bado Dani, Dagi Sheshagi Besonam, Dola Penze Sangye Doba, Sangye Chodang Soge Sonama, Chanju Bado Dani, Dagi Sheshagi Besonam, Dola Penze Sangye Doba Sho. So we have been following this short text, mind training text by the great masters, Atisha. And last week, we finished a section where he advised to find a more suitable external and internal place to meditate, to contemplate and meditate, to work with our mind, to watch our mind, and so that we can try to reduce and overcome those harmful, negative thoughts, emotions, feelings, and so that we can try to increase and improve those helpful, positive state of minds, emotions, feelings, And then also he also advised, also we have to be mindful and careful with our word, what we say, before we say something, because our word can have a strong impact on others, as I was once said, sometimes we might not think it might not have strong impact, but sometimes that can have a very strong impact. So be very mindful and careful with how we use our speech, how our words, so that we can use our speech and words with more gentleness, more kindness, and more meaningful and more truthful, So that was, I think, that was where we. And next, if you are following, if you have the text, then where he says, the next advice is, whenever you see your master or preceptor, offer to serve them with devotion and respect. So again, master is, our spiritual teacher, master, who give us, teachings, instructions, advices, who guide us in our spiritual path, and preceptor is someone who give us, different precepts of vows, such as refuge vows, such as lay vows, such as Bodhisattvas vows, different level of vows and precept, So here the advice is whenever we see them, our spiritual masters and preceptors, try to remember, try to recollect, their positive qualities, whatever positive qualities that we see, we hear, we experience, whether it's their compassions, whether it's their kindness, whether it's their wisdom, whether it's their skillful means, whether it's their practice of moral ethical discipline, meditation concentration, wisdom, so whether it's their patience, so whatever different, whether it's their contributions and help to the benefit, to the Dharma, to sentient beings. So we try to reflect, contemplate, remember them, and then try to develop a strong sense of faith and devotion towards them, and then trying to reflect, recollect, and remember their kindness, because of their kindness, that we have able to receive the, whether it's the refuge vows, whether it's a lay vows, whether it's a Bodhisattva vow, tantric vows, different precepts, and thereby we're able to practice, we're able to keep them, we're able to practice. It's because of their kindness. It is because of their kindness that we have been able to, study, learn how to reflect, how to contemplate, so that once we have started to reflect, contemplate, practice, that we are beginning to see some positive changes, small positive changes in our life, so all because of their kindness, because of their inspirations, their example, because of their encouragement, because of their kindness, being patient with us, sometimes even though we are not able to follow all their advice, sometimes even though we are unable to follow all the advice they ask us to do, even though we are unable to be as perfect as they would like us to, they would wish in us to see us, but despite that, despite our own shortcoming, despite our own weakness, even though we have not been able to follow all their advices, teachings, examples, but still, they are very patient and kind, never give up. Even when we make mistake, they don't just kind of, give up, because, still they continue to help us. They still continue to guide us to the path, when we are being lazy, when we are being distracted, through that. And so always trying to help to be on the path, because sometimes we get distracted. Sometimes we get kind of lazy. And sometimes, and again, the teachers kind of, being patient and helping us, So remember all those kindness, all this kindness. And then with that kindness, we try to cultivate a strong respect, strong sense of respect, strong sense of close feeling their compassion, kindness. And through that, whenever we get any opportunity to be service to them in whatever way we can, then being service to them, as a way of repaying the kindness, Of course, it is almost impossible for us to repay their kindness, even in many lifetimes, for everything they did for us. Like when we are totally lost in the samsara from the beginner's lifetime, they have been able to kind of show the path, so it is hard to repay their kindness. But, whatever we can, whatever we can, through body, speech, and mind, and whenever we can be any service, directly, indirectly, trying to be as service as possible, to repay the kindness, so that is the practice here. Atisha has advising us, even though we might have kindness of so many sentient beings in our life, as we have mentioned before, and here, so many people, our families, friends, sometimes strangers, who have supported us in some of the difficult times, and so there's a lot of kindness we have received, and there's a lot of kindness that we need to repay, but, the best kindness is, really to help us to show, to be on the path, to really work with our mind, that is the greatest kindness that we could receive, that's the great kindness we can receive, because that is not only trying to help us to solve the temporary our problems. Such kindness is not only trying to help to solve temporary problem and temporary solution to our problem, but they are trying to help to find a permanent solutions, lasting permanent solutions to all our problem and our suffering that we have not been able to do in the past. So that kind of kindness is beyond any kind of kindness, because really trying to help you to solve your problem completely, permanently, lasting, Of course, it doesn't matter if we actually apply those teaching and advice and instruction and really see, but from their side, that is what they are trying to do, they are trying to help us to do that. And so therefore, the kindness is kind of unimaginable, yeah. Yeah, even in my life, I think my parents, so many family friends have been very kind to me, give birth, brought up, looking after me, and because of all their kindness, but I think it's mainly my teachers who have really showed me the path, If they haven't shown me the path, still I will be kind of, very much distracted with the samsaric things, I might be successful, unsuccessful in terms of samsaric things, financially, in a relationship, everything's. But definitely, I will be totally distracted in all those things, and so no matter how successful you have, we have been the most richest and most kings in many times in the past, but still that hasn't solved the problem. We are still in samsara, we're full of problems. And so that is because we haven't really followed the path to solve the problem permanently, completely, and because, we didn't know how to do that. We didn't know how to work with our mind. We didn't know the problem is our mind is not something outside. We always thought the problem was outside. But, through the kindness of our teachers, we have learned the problem, the main cause of problem is inside, not outside, it's our own mind. And that is where we need to change. That's where we need to focus, At least we have more awareness of that now. At least we have more awareness of that now. And that awareness didn't come to us suddenly like that. It came through our studies and practice. And all this came, we are able to study and practice because of, again, our teachers. So I think, so that is, yeah. And then next, those who possess enlightened visions, those who can see very far away with the Dharma eyes, who are not distracted with just the samsara, but who can see much more further, long-term, lasting happiness, and who are on the path. And so those who have Dharma eyes, enlightened visions, those who have on the path, who have actualized different level of the realization and path, and those setting on upon the path, not only those who are already on the path, different level of path and with a different level of high realization, but even those also who are in the first setting on the path, who are trying to be on the path, who are, making effort to be on the path, even though they are not perfect, but who are trying to be better, who are trying to be better persons, even though they are not perfect, even though they are not Bodhisattvas, but who are trying to become like a Bodhisattva, who are aspiring to become a Bodhisattva, who are trying to be as wise as those on the path, the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas, even though we are not completely patient, but at least those who are trying to be patient, trying to be patient, even though we are not free from all the distraction, but then those who are trying to learn to be less distracted, who are trying to learn to be more focused, more concentrated, trying to be in the moment, even though they are not perfect in their, their physical actions and verbal and mental action, but trying to improve, trying to be better. So those who are first setting to be on the path, So whenever we see either, those who are just starting to be on the path, those who are aspiring to be on the path, who are trying to be better persons, and those who are already, on the path, who are already doing very well, on their path. When we remember them, when we recollect them, when we see them, when we hear them, when we think of them, regard them both as your spiritual teachers. Regard them as your spiritual teachers. Training your mind to see them as spiritual teachers. Those who are only on the path with the enlightened visions, whether it's the Buddha, whether it's the Bodhisattvas, whether it's the Arhat, whether those who are on the path to Bodhisattva, who are on the Bodhisattva path, those who are on the path to Arhat, we regard them, try to regard and see them as our spiritual teacher, spiritual guidance, taking them as our example, taking them as inspirations, taking them as our role model, and then even those, who are just sitting on the path, also we can see them as something inspiration for us. They are not perfect at the moment, but they are trying. They are trying to be better. They are trying to be better. They are aspiring to be better. And so again, they can also be great example, inspirations, and role model. And then we see them as our own spiritual teachers, regard them as our spiritual teachers, and also we try to cultivate, respect to them. Try to cultivate sense of respect to them. And we also try to be service to them whenever we have the opportunity and the ability to be service to them in whatever way. If we can do that, then we don't have to feel. We would not have so much negative thoughts and feeling towards so many beings. So many beings. Some of the people that we don't know, we don't know on individual levels. And we only know through what you hear in the news or from what you hear from other people's. And then we make our own mind how that person might be or not. And then we might have a better judgment or negative thoughts about those people, this and that. But if we know personally them, probably you might see they're trying very hard to improve and to be a better. Maybe some might, because everyone who tries, some are more successful than others, isn't it? In everything, everyone's trying, when they have relationship, everyone's trying to have good relationship, but some are more successful, some are unsuccessful for whatever karma, different reasons, circumstances. Everyone's trying to have a, kind of financially strong and secure. Everyone's trying, but not everyone's have same level of success. For again, whatever reasons, different reasons. Same way, everyone's trying to be a better person, wanting to be a better person. Despite wanting to be a better person and despite trying, some of them have more success, some of them have less successful. But when you know they are trying, when you know they have the wish to improve themselves so they can become better being, better human, when you know that they want to be that, they are trying to be that, they are trying, even when they are not successful, then even you don't agree with some of their behavioral actions, and sometimes you might be even kind of, disappointed or upset with their actions and behavior. At the same time, you could also have a respect for that person, that he or she wants to be a better person. He or she is trying to be a better person. Because you understand that, definitely he or she lost the mind today, and he was very mean today to someone, and we are disappointed, we are upset, we are angry about that, we don't agree with that. At the same time, that person's truly want to improve, because personally, because he or she has been trying to improve themselves, trying to be better persons. On that level, we should respect that person. And we will have respect if you understand that. If you understand and if you really know that, you will have. So with that kind, we learn to respect. We learn to respect others because they are trying, even when it's not successful. And not only others, we can be also with ourselves, you can have respect to yourself. You cultivate respect to yourself by understanding that, instead of being self-loathing, self-hatred, because I'm not good enough. because I'm too selfish, because I don't have bodhisattva mind, because I'm therefore being too selfish, or because I'm not a perfect Buddhist practitioner, I'm unable to live all the ideals that described in those teachings. I'm unable to follow all of that. Instead of that, at least, we always make a prayer. We will have that wish. Every day we try to generate the motivations. We try to develop the wish, prayers to become to cultivate true love, compassion, bodhisattva mind, to be on the bodhisattva path, to be more kind to others, even though we are not successful to do that all the time. At least we have that inspirations, the wish. Not only we have the inspirations, aspirations, and wish, we are trying. Not easy, but we are trying. And not always successful, but we are trying. So again, when we understand that, also we can kind of have a respect to ourselves, because on the basis of that, So learning to respect others and learning to respect ourselves. Being respect to yourself, being respect for others. Is important. It's important. We have to learn to be kind of train and learn to be more holistic, and not to focus on only one, only just the bad side, or only just the good side. We have to. Everyone has, our own weakness and strength. Everyone has some good quality and some bad qualities among the sentient beings, and so learning to be more aware of both of them, and by seeing the goodness, trying to be respectful, by treating the negative side, trying to transform, trying to change it, trying to improve it, so that is important. If you see only positive, you don't see the negative, then you will not try to improve it. You will not try to change it. If you only see the negative and you don't see the positive, then your mind becomes very, very dark and negative. Your mind started to become, very, very, dark, whether it is yourself or with others. Your mind started to become very negative, whether it is with yourself or someone else, because we focus too much on just the negative side, and we can't see the positive side of that, and because we don't learn our mind to see there is also positive side in that individuals, and so that is to see that both is important, to balance our mind and to improve and increase our mind. And so then next one, the verse here says, whenever you see any sentient beings, regard them as your parent or your children. So again, this is just an example, it could be, you could, and generally speaking, you have a very strong positive feeling towards your parent because of their upbringing, because of their kindness, compassions, so you have a very strong special relationship with them, maybe not all the time. Sometimes we get fight, sometimes we have bad feelings, but in generally speaking, overall, we have a very special relationship and feeling with them. For most people, or many of the peoples, so you have very feeling of affections, love, compassions, sense of closeness, and respect. So if you have that with your parent, then you learn to see all other sentient beings as your parent, so that by seeing them and by feeling, not only seeing, we have to train our mind, to see and feel same way. And with the training of the mind over the time, then you will feel, same, just like your biological parent. You will start to feel the same way to non-biological other sentient beings, just like the way you feel for your parent, sense of affection, love, compassion, care, respect, so that is how we train, and same with your children, again, those who have children, they have a strong special relationship with their children, parent and children, they have a strong relationship, because it's their own blood, because they give the birth. And because of that, again, there is very strong, biologically very strong, kind of special relationship. And so you have more affection to your children than other children's. You have more sense of compassion, love, and care, more sense of, more caring to them, your own children, than others, because of such a. And like in the same way, we train to see all other sentient beings. Train your mind through meditation and practice to see all sentient beings as being your own child, and thereby feeling same way to them as you will feel for your own biological child. Sense of feeling of affections, love, caring, compassions, being patient with them, being gentle with them, So that way, if we are able to train to see that way and feel that way, then that will be how we will interact with others. The way you will interact with your child, we will interact with them. So, so in that way, then we don't hurt others, but instead we help emotionally and physically, mentally, so that is. But if you don't have that kind of same feeling relationship with your parent, so then maybe it might be difficult for some people, because of, relationship are humans' relationship. I think relationship in general is complicating, and especially humans' relationship is much more complicating, and so, every relationship is different, and so it might not be same for everyone's. We might have different relationship. Some people might have a different relationship with their parent or even with their children, and they might not feel the way it is describing here. The way it's describing here is for those who have a good relationship, and so those who have good relationship, they feel that way, so they can connect with that. But those who doesn't have such a good relationship, they might struggle to have that kind of relate that this. So in those, as many teachers and some others advise, even you might not have difficult you might feel, but there might be someone in your life where you feel very affection, kind, caring, loving, compassion. It could be your grandparent. It might be. It might be your uncle, auntie. It might be, your sibling. It might be friends, So, or it might be a colleague, So there is someone in your life, or maybe your pet, where you feel their unconditional love. Maybe. So therefore, you feel really sense of, true love, compassion, caring to them. Maybe you might struggle with another human being, but you might feel that way with that, The point is then once you have someone, whether it's human beings, another being, whatever, or it could be your teachers, it could be your teachers, there is someone you feel that way, and then basically is to train and learn to see all other sentient beings regarding them like that, by seeing that. In one of the sutra, I think it is I cannot recollect, but I'm quite sure, even though I'm not 100% sure, is the sutra of the loving kindness, compassion, I think, where Buddha, so it's the same teaching here, where he says, if you see someone, elder beings, regard them and see them as your parent, your grandparent. If you see any young who are same age as your children, see them all as your children. Regard them and see them all as children. If you see someone who is same age as your sibling, see and train and regard them as your siblings. So according to different kind of age you encounters in your life, other sentient beings, and same age of that, you have a strong connection within your life sudden, and you try to see all of them in the same categories. And so the point of doing that, why do we need to see them that? Why we need to regard them? Because if we can see them like them and if we can feel like them, then you have a different, different feeling towards them, positive feeling towards them. More affection, love, compassion. It's easy to develop more love, compassion, affection, respect, and all of that. It's more easy to be patient with them. Than others, So all due to that, so that change your mental, that can have a strong impact on your mental attitude, your mental response. And then with that kind of mental attitude and mind, then it could change how your perceptions, and through that, then you change your behavior physically and verbally, and so then it becomes more positive instead of more negative. So that is and if we go further than that, and from Buddhist point of view, because everyone has been our mom, parent, not only one time, many, many times. Everyone has been our grandparent, not only one time, many, many times. Everyone has been our, children, not only one time, many, many times. Everyone has been our sibling, not only one time, many, many times. Everyone has been our uncle, auntie, friends, not only one time, many times, Everyone has been our path, not only one time, many times, And so there is a reason to see and regard them that way, because even though we cannot recognize them, even though we don't remember now, even though we cannot recognize them, but they have been many times in the past. And since they have been already, and so then we try to train our mind to see that, to regard that, and then, train our mind to see and regard them in that way. Hmm. So then if we are able to do that, definitely, our interactions and relation with all sentient beings will be better, more healthy, more positive, at least from our side, And in generally speaking, when there is when someone starts with this from one side, even if it's one side with a more healthy, more positive, more kind, compassion, interaction and a relationship, it's only a matter of time the other one also started to see and feel it, and they also started to change. And they, sometimes certain individual, it takes time them to see and feel that. Some people cannot see and feel that immediately. Even you are trying to be kind and compassion, the other person might not be able to see you are trying to be compassion and kind. They might not be able to feel the kind and compassion immediately. But with the time, then sometimes it takes maybe months, sometimes it takes years before they can really see that and before they can really feel that. Once they see and feel it, then their perception change, their attitude change, and their action and behavior also change. And so then, definitely also from both sides, then, we have better interaction, more healthy, more kind, compassionate interaction and relationship, and interactions. Mm. So, yeah, so that is. And then next one, don't befriend those who act in humble ways. Instead, rely on true spiritual friend. So here, again, you often see similar kind of advices in many other teachings as well, uh, because and these teachings are mainly for beginner, beginner who are trying to be on the path, or who are just have set on the path, because our practice is not strong. Our practice is not strong. When your practice is not strong, you can be influenced very much by surrounding environment. What kind of circle you live in, what kind of friends, what kind of circle, what kind of society, that can have a strong influence in our thinking, our behavior, our actions, So if you are surrounded by a kind of people with a kind of aggressive, violent, unkind, mean, violent, then it can influence you, and you started to become like them. You started to act like them. You started to think it's normal to act like that. It's not bad. It's okay to do that. Okay to think in that way, because you grow up in that kind of environment, that kind of surrounding. And to you, it seems, oh, he does that, she does that, everyone does that, so it must be normal. It must not be bad. or everyone thinks that way, so it must be okay. It must be just fine. So our mind started to change and become like that. Even at the very beginning, you might think, oh, that is not right. That is not right. It's not correct way of thinking or attitude. But then when you're surrounded by all of them, then you started to feel, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm mistaken, because everyone around me think differently, does differently. That kind of could really have a strong impact. Mm, Especially for the beginner, when you don't have when you have a very, very strong practice, when you have reached certain point in your path realization, then it doesn't matter. No one can really, no one's actions and attitude or perceptions or way of thinking can kind of change your mind in a negative, because you have very strong, unshakable practice. And that, but for the beginner, it's very important to have to be in the right circle of friends, just like even in even in general, even we don't talk from Dharma, it is for young children growing up, it's very important for them to what kind of environment. If they are with their friends who use all these substances, they will end up using substances, When your friend, everyone's drinking, everyone's using that drugs, then do you think it's cool, and do you think it is okay to do that? And you want to be part of that. You want to fit in that. You want to be part of that, isn't it? So you do that in order to feel part of that. A lot of them, a lot of young children, because a lot of their friends are doing that. If they don't do that, they don't fit in that. Or at least that is how they feel. And so they try, and then that's how they get caught up. And even as an adult, I'm sure that some of you might feel that way when you go to the parties. If you don't drink, you don't feel into that. And so you feel like you need to drink because everyone else is drinking. Even from your side, maybe you don't want to drink, but you can see the pressure of others. If you don't drink, then maybe you cannot socialize with others because everyone's drinking, unless you are strong enough to say, I would rather have juice or some soft drinks, and for whatever reasons, whether it's your health reason, whether it's for some certain other things, and then so but basically that is what I'm trying to say is the influence of our friends and circle around that has such a strong impact on you, your thinking, your perceptions, your lifestyle, your behavior, and all of that. And so therefore it's important to have right, circle of friends and circle around you who have a similar way of thinking, instead of violent, someone who have similar, who support, or who are inspiring to become more kind, more compassionate, more understanding, instead of saying, you have to be angry, you must be angry, you have to be angry. Instead of that, you should be surrounded by people who doesn't, encourage anger, but instead who encourage you compassion, patience, understanding, and all of that, should be surrounded by, instead of being surrounded by people who always talk and encourage you about fame, reputation, name, wealth, always talking about, all this fancy, expensive, this and that, but someone who inspire you and encourage you to be more, more content in your life, who will encourage you to, or inspire you, encourage you to be more peaceful within yourself, instead of always looking outside, all of that can have a strong impact, very strong, a lot of time, we as a ordinary, beginner human beings, our life, even without knowing, sometimes we are not even aware how our perceptions, or how our way of thinking, how our life changes by being around certain circles of peoples or certain environment, And that is why, certain cultures, why people are much more compassion by nature, because even they might not do meditation compassions, but from the very young child, as a young child, the environment is that you grow up in that kind of culture where your parent, your siblings, the whole society discourage you from just bang on any, if you see any kind of insect, just smash it like that. Instead, don't do that, save it. This is being. So you learn as a child, even though you don't know what that means, but you grow up and then you, in your brain, in your mind, that's how. And for some people, even they know and they don't want to do that, but they cannot, because they grow up that it's hard to change, So a lot of those things, you grew up. And again, one of the things that I have often hearing from the people is, whether that is accurate or not, but from some of the articles and from people that that I've heard, from many people, in certain society, like in the West, there is one problems that is very not so huge in other certain cultures or societies, such as self-loathing, self-hatred, feeling of strong guilt, all of that, and again, these are kind of from what some of the article I see and from a lot of people that I hear, because it's by the culture, that culture that has been influenced in a subtle way by certain perceptions that you are bad persons, original sin, you are bad persons, whether you believe in that or not, but it has an impact. Even you don't believe it, still it has impact because of the whole society culture, very embedded in that, Even though you might have rejected that idea, but still it's deep inside, deep inside. So that is another example, how that, important of that. And so therefore this is the advice, who act in harmful way, physically, verbally, mentally, because we don't want to be harmful persons, because we don't want to be violent persons. Being harmful and violent is not good for anyone. It's not good for yourself. It's not good for the society. It's not good for anyone, It's very, very harmful and destructive for everyone. And so therefore, we don't want to be violent. We don't want to be harmful. And if we don't want to be harmful, we don't want to be violent. And because we don't have strong practice, it's important to have a better environment. That is why Sangha play a big role, Sangha, community Sangha. If you are living by yourself, where you don't have a Sangha community, then it's more harder because you don't have same people who share same kind of idea like you have, just like as it mentioned. But when you are as a community Sangha, then you go to the centers, temples, whatever, everyone who come there, or most of them share same ideas, same who want to be more kind, compassion, who doesn't like violence, who doesn't like harmful, violent behavior and actions. And so by that, then each support each others, and you feel supported. You don't feel like you are outsider. Do you get it? When you are not there, then you feel you are outsider. You don't fit in there. And so again, and then it might not have impact on you immediately, but if you don't have a strong practice, with the time, it might impact. And slowly, your mind started to change. Slowly, your perception change. And slowly, you might just kind of end up becoming, thinking and doing things the way people are doing around you. That is the importance of having a Sangha, is that, that you feel you are not only one who have that kind of way of thinking, you feel that you have support, you are not alone, and then we support each others in that way and give more kind of boost and inspirations, kind of supporting, encouraging each others to have that kind of attitude, to have that kind of thinking, and to work to improve that kind of thinking. So that is so when we are training, so physically, is better if we have options to kind of keep a little distant from those, physically distant from people who are very harmful, or who act in a very harmful ways, physically, verbally, mentally, emotionally, whether they are harmful to you or whether they are harmful to another beings, whether human beings, another animals, whatever, physically is kind of better to be kind of, if we can keep, if we have the options to keep distant. Unless you can kind of inspire and change their behavior actions, to do that, you need a really good practice, strong practice. Otherwise, instead of trying to influence the others, they influence you. Do you get it? Sometimes you get in that with a wish to change them, but you end up being them changing you. Do you know what I mean? I've seen many individuals like that. They had a good intentions. The intention, motivations to be there so they can change their mind. So they can fit there by being with them, by feeding with them, that they think they can change them. But at the end, other ones change them, And so to be able to change, you need a really strong practice. As I said, if we don't have strong practice, so even with the best wishes, sometimes it doesn't turn out that just the wish itself is not going to make it happen. And so keeping distant is better. But mentally, you have to keep close because they are another sentient beings. No matter how violent they are, no matter how cruel and mean they are still sentient beings. They are still sentient beings and other sentient beings who do not want suffering and continue to suffer, who wish to be happy, who struggle to have happiness and peace. With that understanding, with that realizations, then you try to feel compassion for that. You keep them in your mind. You wish them and pray that they find peace, that they find inner peace, inner happiness in their life. That they become more kind, compassionate. So keeping in our heart, having concern for them, compassion for them, wishing them best, praying for their best, for that, but physically keeping a little distant. So that is, we have to make those two differences. Do you get it? Distinguishing those two things: physically distant but mentally close, holding in your heart. And really, sometimes we, a lot of time we pray, for nice people, isn't it? Good people. But we don't pray for the bad people. What we really need is to pray more for those bad people. They need more prayer than the good people because of all this negative karma they're creating. And so we need to pray more for them. Pray more for them. In the same way, when we see someone who is unkind, mean, and cruel, violent, acting very harmful way, physically keep distant, because if you are too close physically, not only they can influence, also it upset your mind, isn't it? When you see them, you upset your mind, disturb your mind. There isn't much you can change, but what is, your mind get disturbed and very agitated and upset all the time. So it's, and you don't want to get your mind disturbed, agitated and upset, it doesn't help. So it's better just physically keep distant, but because we are trying to practice the Mahayana path, we are trying to engage in the Bodhisattva path. The practice of Bodhisattvas is to walk for benefit of each and every sentient being, Therefore, they are also one of those sentient beings, and therefore we have to keep in our heart, in our mind, like the rest of other sentient beings, and keep in our prayers, in our heart. And so by keeping distant from them, physically distant from them, not befriending means, physically being too close to them, instead trying to keep distant from them. Then instead rely on true spiritual friends, then we need to be close to the spiritual friend, our Sangha, Sangha members, our teachers, spiritual friends, our spiritual masters, guidance, as well as our Sangha members, because when we are close to them, again, it has impact on us. When you are with someone who is always patient, slowly, you also get effect of that. And slowly, you also learn to be more patient. Even you are very impatient persons, to begin with, but then you live with a person who is others very patient, and slowly, you notice that slowly, it sinks in your mind, And slowly, slowly, you begin to act and become more and more patient like the other persons. Even you are not generous at the very beginning, you live with people who are very generous, very kind, giving all the time. Slowly you feel, oh, I should be also a little bit generous. They inspire you. Even they don't say anything, you're just watching, being there, that had impact on you. And slowly you feel like, oh, how can I be so ungenerous when everyone here is so generous? It doesn't feel right. I should be a little more generous. Or, when someone is so kind, compassionate all the time, caring about others, how can I be so selfish and not be cared about others? It impacts your mind or way of thinking, It questions arise in your mind. How can I be so selfish and not have any concern for others' well-being? Because you observe around you so concerned with others, so loving with others. And that caution started to have impact in your mind to be more concerned for others' well-being because of others. So that is how it changed your mind. It changed your perception, your way of thinking, your way of doing things, Same thing, if you are with someone who is very, very respectful, strong devotions, respectful for the spiritual friend, and even you are not so devotional, even you are not so respectful at the very beginning, when you are constantly with that person over the time, again, that will have some influence in you to become more respectful and more, to have that, one of the examples, they give, if you leave a garlic in your bowl or anything, the smell of garlic, even you take away the garlic, the smell will still be there, And similarly, that is the effect that will have of good or bad. Even the person is not around there anymore, you have been influenced by that individual in your life, depending on what that person's in positive, negative. So it is the virtues, if it is a spiritual friends, then, definitely you have a more positive influence, impact and influence in our life. Mostly the way we think, our attitude, Again, that is also another reason why I think also the Sangha become important in that. If you have when you have Sangha, then, you meet more frequently. You can discuss about your practice, your thinkings, and, discuss with each others, encourage with each others, support each others, so that's where instead rely on true spiritual friend, and I guess here is a true spiritual friend because there could be a false or fake spiritual friends as well, like everything's now, we have everything's false and fake in everything's, fake dharma, fake teachers, and all of that, again, that is how as much as we human has an incredible potential, also we human has all this bad potential as well, negative potential as well, if we misuse it. And sometimes the very spiritual that is supposed to, the Dharma which is supposed to support, can also be misused, and and so again, so of course, we have to analyze ourselves, and then on the basis of that, then once we find and once we understand about such a true spiritual friend, whether it's a teachers, whether it's a guidance, whether it's other Sangha members, true Dharma practitioners, then, relying on them, being more physically closer to them, can be helpful, beneficial for our spiritual growth, for our practice, so that we don't become discouraged easily, so that we don't give up easily, even when things are not so easy at certain times, so that okay. Drop any feeling of hostility or ill will and be happy wherever you choose to go. And so next instructions and advice is, do not have any kind of hostility and ill will feeling to anyone, anyone. Do not hold, the wish to see the suffering of others. That is what hostility and ill will feeling wish, to see miserable suffering of someone, something bad happening to someone, So we don't want to hold that kind of feeling to anyone, no matter how mean, cruel, and unkind and harmful that person is. Because by holding such a hostility feeling and ill will, you are not going to change that person's behavior, action, and attitude. If that person is mean and cruel and unkind, by being that, will the cruelty mind change? Will his behavior or actions of being harmful, cruel, mean change? It is not going to change. But what it does is, it kind of destroy your peace, your inner peace, your happiness, your inner peace and happiness. That is what it does when you have that kind of ill will feeling and hostility feelings. It destroys your virtues. It creates an obstacle to cultivate true love, compassion, and bodhicitta to all sentient beings. It becomes hindrance to your own spiritual growth. It becomes obstacles for you to be able to be on the path and to be able to achieve enlightenment. So there is nothing good in that. There is nothing positive in that. There's nothing good and positive for yourself, and there's nothing good and positive for others. Even if it's not good for you, if it's something is going to be good for someone else, then at least there is something you can say. Or even if it's not good for someone else, if it's going to be good for yourself, at least again you can argue about that. But such hostile and ill feeling, it doesn't do any good to others and any good to yourself. So why hold on that? Why hold on that? So therefore, we have to train our mind, learn our mind to drop that. Of course, sometimes comes, we are a very beginner. We are very beginner who is trying to be, as I mentioned, trying to be better, trying to learn, trying to be better, trying to be on the path, but we are not there at the moment. We are only trying to be there. We are not there. And therefore, sometimes as such ill will feeling, hostility feeling will arise. It's a natural, it's a normal for ordinary beings. You hear the news and someone has been so mean, cruel, so harmful, destroying so many people's lives, taking so many people's lives, destroying the society, the country, the world. When you see that, all of that, when you hear all of that, sometimes a thought might arise, a kind of ill will feeling or hostile feeling towards that individual can arise. It is a normal for ordinary beings to have that kind of thoughts. But the point is, once you have that, don't hold on that. Drop it. Once you have that with your mindfulness, vigilant mind, you'll be aware, oh, I'm having this hostile feelings, or I'm having this negative feeling, ill will feeling. Oh, I'm wishing that person there's some kind of miserable sufferings. Oh, it's not correct. It's against the Bodhisattva path. It's against the compassion, love. It's against the root of the Buddha's teachings. Is again the very practice that I want to practice. Is against the very path I want to develop. So with that kind of understanding, and by understanding, it doesn't help me, it doesn't help others, it doesn't help the situation to change. It helps no one. It doesn't help you, it doesn't help the other person, it doesn't help the situation to change by having that thought. So therefore, it's completely useless. By seeing uselessness, not only uselessness, by seeing how destructive, and how harmful it is, then we learn to let it go, drop it. We train and let it go, Instead, we try to cultivate good intention, motivation for that person's, praying and wishing, may that person's, be able to develop love, compassion instead of so much anger. May that person be able to develop wisdom instead of so much ignorance. So we wish them, we pray and wish them to cultivate love, compassion, and wisdom so that they can find inner peace. Inner peace. So when they find inner peace, when they are able to develop those inner qualities, they will never harm others. They will never hurt others. They will never engage in such a cruel and mean activities. And that's what you need to do. Drop that ill will feeling and hostility, and you try to keep that positive mind, that prayer, that wish, and you do that. And then thereby you transform it, and the moment you do it, you find more peace in yourself. Before, your mind's so agitated, so disturbed. You replace that with more kind of calm, peaceful mind by, wishing something positive instead of something negative, and that one help you, that one help the other persons. By if we have a karmic connections, and by your prayers, dedications, you can have some impact. You can be able to contribute a little bit, little part towards their karma to become a better, and so it helped us. And then also through by changing their karma, then we change also it has effect on the event itself, the situation itself. So in that way, then it becomes beneficial and helpful for everyone. So that is. So I think maybe today I will stop here. If there is any questions or comment to share, you're most welcome. If there is.
Geshe, this is Heather. I have a question.
Yes, please.
So everything you said is very clear and very helpful, as always. I'm thinking about a friend who's been a good friend for 20 years. As I have changed and tried to work more on myself, I notice how much of our friendship is based on negativity and gossip. So I want to be able to, not get dragged into it, but this is also someone I love very much. So I don't know, do you have advice for how to create distance without getting rid of that person, or how to interact with that person without engaging in the negativity?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you are more mindful and vigilant with yourself and your mind, so I think each time you go and meet or see that you become very mindful and vigilant what you say, and so that you don't engage in more gossips or more all those kind of things, even though you might not be able to stop that person from kind of gossiping or want to talk about something but you don't want to add on that. A lot of time we add, someone start and then we add on that, and then that's how it becomes. And after some time, maybe that person might also come to understanding that you don't want to engage in so much of this kind of conversations, and instead want to get other conversation that might be more meaningful. And so, but I think without having to say you don't want to get in gossip, and that what that person is saying gossip and all of that, you just become more mindful and vigilant every time you go and make a conscious effort, so that you don't add up to that. And slowly, maybe the other person might understand and come to see, and then, conversation can be shifted to something else, something more meaningful, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then we do the dedications if there is no questions. Yeah. May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depressions. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those who weep with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of liberating each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, and have good rest of the day. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you.